they still enjoy your work, but that it's different reading about your life as a expatriate with like some success behind you versus the early days of from where there was the Holidays on Ice and that era where you're writing about really grinding it out and having weird experiences, having to be an elf, things like that. So what do you say to something like that about, because Kevin Hart, the reason I brought him up in case it sparks a thought with you, is his last concert movie, the whole selling point about 2 years ago was, oh, here's a movie where he sold out a stadium in his hometown, and this guy who started being appealing, talking about his rough life and finding funny things to say about a movie called Laugh at My Pain even, and there he is like in a stadium, and it was all about, oh my God, life's so weird when you're rich. And so, I'm not saying it was as blatant by any means for you, but do you hear that kind of critique sometimes from people, and what do you say to that when people bring that up?
Well, I don't know. Like I said, I never read anything about myself, so I don't know. Maybe a lot of people are saying that. I mean, I kind of feel like, sometimes I write about the past, and sometimes I write about the present. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think so. I can always go back to writing about those things, but I think it's false to pretend that. I think it's false to pretend that I don't lead the life that I lead now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I interviewed another author a number of years ago. He and I were supposed to sit down and have a conversation, and he had sold, I don't know, like 15 million books or something like that.
Wow.
And I said, do you like being rich? And he changed the subject. He said, I'm not rich. And I said, well, I know that math. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know how much you get for a hardcover book and how much you get for a paperback book. And I'm just saying, like, was it a big change for you? Did it take a lot of getting used to? And he just wouldn't, just kind of denied it. And I thought, I don't know, that just seems false and seems unfair when there are so many people who don't have money and are actually, struggling to get by. Don't pretend you're struggling to get by. That's just fake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I understand. I'm not trying to rub anyone's nose in anything.
Oh, no.
But at the end of the day, you know what I mean? Like, I still am me, right? So I might have, I have money, and I'm going to go to the bookstore tonight, and I'm going to sign books. The other night I signed books for 10 hours. That's not the reading part. That's just the signing part, when you're on a book tour. And, but when I come home from my book tour, I'm going to be on the roadside picking up trash for 6 to 8 hours a day because I can't not do that. So that's nice that I have money, and that's nice that people come and show up when I go on a tour. But at the same time, I have this thing going on where I can't walk by a piece of litter, and I have to be on the side of the road, dressed in rags, picking it up. So, I can be both those things. I can be both those people.
Yeah.
And I don't, so, that's always funny to me, too. I remember when I took a writing class when I first moved to New York, and it was a humor writing class, and the teacher brought up, I think it was Calvin Trillin. Somebody brought up, she asked us who we liked. And I said, I like Calvin Trillin. And she said, Calvin Trillin, he has a house in Greenwich Village. And it's like, so what? Does that mean he's not funny? Does that mean he's not a good writer? It just sounded to me like she was jealous of him.
Gotcha. So then,
but anyway, I'm not offended by that question. I can understand. But again, if you're writing about your life, if I could pick up a pen right now and I can write about something that happened 40 years ago, and there's all the struggle in the world in it, or I can write about something that, this story I have coming out in the New Yorker is about going to a firing range, with my older sister. And I mean, it's not a question of me not being able to afford the $50 safety class. It's going to a firing range.
Yeah. Well, let me. You have time for one or two more, correct, or no?
I beg your pardon?
I said, do you have time for one or two more questions?
Sure.
Okay. So, since you found your success a little later in life, like you were about 35 when things blew up for you. So, having done like the odd jobs in the past and all the elf stuff and everything, do you feel that your writing came out better from having those experiences?
Yeah. I mean, I think, I met someone the other day, and she's in high school, and she's just got a job at McDonald's. And I said, oh, that's great. That's going to be a great job for you. I mean, just for later on in life, working at McDonald's means that every time you step into a McDonald's, you can empathize with the people who work there. So, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't really. It's hard for me to think of anything that I would take back, anything, moment in my life that I would, I don't wish that I had found success a day earlier than I did.
Sure. Okay. So then I guess one thing that always fascinated me also is that, having you and Amy as both really successful people in such creatively funny ways, what do you think, led to you guys having such a unique voices? And it is rare, I would think, for two people in the same family to each find great success in the same kind of creative arena, no?
Yeah, I guess it is. I mean, I don't know. I never doubted Amy would be a successful person. I mean, she was always funnier than everybody else. Than anybody else. I
Sure.
mean, people would say, "Oh, my friend so and so is so funny," and I would think, "Well, I bet she's not as funny as Amy." But I think, I moved to New York. I moved to Chicago. And Amy was living in Raleigh. And then I called her and I said, oh, there's this place here called Second City, and I bet you could. She did. And then she started taking classes there, and then she got into the touring company for the main stage. And then she got on the main stage. And but I think it would have happened even if I hadn't said, oh, you have to come up here. I mean, there was just something about her that I don't think that she would have just remained the funniest waitress in Raleigh, North Carolina. I mean, I think, if it wasn't me saying you have to come up here, she probably, I don't know, something would have happened for her, I think. The same way as, if Ira Glass hadn't heard me read and asked me if I wanted to be on the radio. I don't know when, but, I feel pretty certain that something would have come along.
Yeah. So then, what do you, like, with Theft by Finding It, you released a lot of your diaries, or excerpts from your diaries. You mentioned earlier in this interview that you would never, put your entire diaries out for the world to see, like a daily online check me out, kind of thing. So what was the process for deciding what to share with that? And then the cutoff point, I forget what year you cut it off at. Was it 2012 or 2002 or?
2002.
Yeah. So are you going to be having a follow-up that would cover the years since then, or was there a specific reason for 2002 as a cutoff point?
No, I think 2002 was just kind of arbitrary, but yeah, there's going to be a second volume. That's going to be 2003 through 2018. And so I've been looking for things and my life isn't terribly different than it was in 2002, really. I go on tour twice a year. When I'm not on tour, I'm writing the next tour. So I think the second part of the diary, I just want it to be funny. I don't really see any great, any struggle is, the kind of struggle that no one's interested in, like, oh, I can't seem to get the middle part of this essay to work. No, nobody wants to hear about that. So I think it'll just be stuff that makes me laugh, or that, might make other people laugh.